Zero, action.
Okay, Honorable, can you just introduce yourself? Tell us your name, your age, and maybe your village of origin.
Wow, thank you very much. My name uh, Awudu Mbaya Cyprian are my names, and they call me now Honorable Dr. Awudu Mbaya Cyprian. I don't know what age. I was born in 1952, precisely in May, and on the 18th of that month, and that's the time that they were weeding the farm. And it is the precise date because a reverend father was passing for his crusade, and a baby was born, and so it was noted down. And my village is, I come from Njap. Njap is in between Tabiken and Kambe in Wimbom land, Kambe Central Subdivision, Donga Mountain Division.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you tell us at what age, I'm talking about age again, at what age did you start primary school? And can you tell us the school and in which year?
A difficult question to answer because my own story is different. I was not really sent to school as such. I forced myself to school. I forced myself to school because I was the only male child of my father and the first in the family. And I was helping my father. And we will go right to Mbembe, where you call Aku today, carry oil and Kenneth to come and sell. So my father or my family thought that it was not really necessary to send me to school. It was going to handicap them since I was assisting. And I come really from a very poor family at the time. So I forced myself because my age mate were going to school. Some were trekking from a very far, long distance to get to the school, which was not very far from where we were living. And so I was forcing myself there, and in fact, I would say doing it passively, because on certain Fridays, if that Friday fell on a country Sunday that we had to go to Mbembe, same route, I'll leave school halfway and satisfy my father to go with my father there. Come back, and of course on Monday, I will carry some of the goods that we brought from the kennels in particular to sell at the school. At the time you are selling, you have divided minds. You will not be able to study the same like your friends. And so I had a very difficult time going to school. But I managed at my own level at the time. So I forced my school. That was CBM that finally came was finally transformed into CBC, one teach. You have a secondary school there now, in fact a high school which is called Mbuwal. But at the time it was Wanti, and that was the only school in that part of the land that could compare itself with Taku. I say Taku because we used to trek to Taku to play football and come back, and these were the only schools around that were accessible to some of us.
Okay. You just said you forced yourself to school. What motivated you to study?
You see, you are living with young men and young women who live and go to school. They play the band or the drums, They play football, they tell stories, they speak English, and you just stay home. You will not be able to fit into that society. And so it was just too good to go to school. And of course, I went to school like that without uniform. Since my father was trading in oil, salts, kanwa, etc. So at one moment, they decided to get the bag of salt and gave it to a tailor who took my measurements and had to produce me.
Okay, good. Actually.
No, I was saying that my father had to use the bag of salt, gave it to a tailor, and that was the only tailor around in a quarter called Kusa in Wanti Wat village. And the man took my measurements and produced me a short pant, a short knicker at the time. That's how we used to call it. And it is only after that, after I started reading, I could understand certain things that I saw the inscription behind my knicker, British salt, because the salt was from Britain, and you can see the writing still there, and in fact, a kind of thing that would not come out quickly, even if you use the most effective detergent, Omo or whatever you call it. So it remained there throughout the lifespan of that my knicker. And of course, we're wearing it only on Sundays. And on some occasions, we'll come and pack it, wash it very well, put starch there from cassava. And my mother will put it, lock it inside a wooden box that my father brought from Calabar at the time. So that is how, in fact, I became so happy because I could measure with other children who had a T20, but I had British salt, which was unique and very clean.
Okay, Honorable, what was the attitudes of your parents regarding primary education?
No, they really liked it, but economic situation didn't permit them to be sending children to school. And most, as I told you before, they thought that I would help my father to be able to, at the end of the day, put bread on the table or food on the table or buy oil, because that was the most important thing at the time. Oil and salt. My mother will go to the farm. They will be able to have njama and other. And of course, the family will eat. So to him and to many parents, it was necessary that your children remain with you and assist you either in tapping what you call raffia, mimbo to sell, or in some cases carrying maize and the rest of things to be able to sell in some markets to feed on. So they really liked it, but unfortunately they couldn't, they were not cope at the time because of economic hardship.
Okay.
And most of my own case was even peculiar because my father said that my cousin, the only cousin I had at the time, a male cousin, Samson Tata, went to school right up to class 6, to standard 6, so to say, at the time, came out and was not taken as a teacher. So it was irrelevant. It was necessary going to school because back home at the time, we knew that when you complete your primary school, you were going to become a teacher. And that was the only job available, or the only thing that could show you went to school. And so they didn't see the reason why I should go to school again when my cousin had just finished and had no job, the job of a tutor. So that is one of the things that I had it hard on me. And that explains why all along I forced myself going to primary school.
Okay, I see. And you said that you are the first in your family.
Yes, yes.
You are the first in your family. Can you tell us if that position influenced your parents' choice of sending you to school, or their resistance to your schooling in any way?
No, I don't think it was the mentality at the time. That if you have a male child, a child should, well, it doesn't matter whether you were the first or whatever position in the family, as long as you were strong and energetic, that you could help your father, they thought that it would be better you help your parents to move, with them. Moving from one end to the other, my father, for instance, when we were living in Wat, was a member of the Mfo in Lo. And so they will want you to carry me more, and if you will get there, and so on and so forth, and interact with the people around, etc., etc. My own story, too, was very peculiar because you just asked of my village, and I told you in that.
Yes.
And then I started telling you the story of what? It should be confusive to you. No, it shouldn't. What happened is that my father or my parents were giving birth to children in Jap, and I want to believe that it was a kind of maternal mortality at the time. So the children will always die. They will always die. And so I am told that when my mother conceived me, my father decided to move to Wat, where his sister got married, and one of his cousins, an elderly one, Taj Samba, had moved from Jab also to live in that place. And so therefore, to him, he wanted us to go, or he wanted to take his wife there and see if the changing of that environment could produce good results. And so when we got somewhere approaching Wangri, I am told my mother went into labor, and they asked where the chief of that village is. And they went to that village where I was born, and it was the day that somebody, a prominent man in that village, was providing mbaya. That for over 10 years he had not provided mbaya, but he was sharing, he was drinking. So he was doing it at that time. It became a very big feast. So everybody emptied into that part of the village called Bambi, and my mother came to that palace of Wangri. There was no woman. The phone had to send someone to call the women to come around. Before they got there, I was already given birth to. And so we stayed in that village very briefly and moved again to the direction where he had intended going to, as to Wanti and to Mandu, where my uncle was living and where my aunt was living at Wanti, and where my father finally got a small portion of a plot in Charo, that's Mba village. They just live side by side, and constructed a house there. That house is still there today. Our coffee and other crops are still there today. And everybody knows that that's where we lived until at a certain age, we now moved, all of us went back to Jap. So my own story is a little bit peculiar. Yeah.